pleasant evening and a warm welcome to the National News live on Channel I. I'm Delanjali Ananda.
Good evening, I'm Charity Vinuparachi and now let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news.
Director General of Health Services informs the Secretary to the President that there are no obstacles to conduct the electoral process within health recommendations and guidelines. The final rites of late former Minister Arumugam Thundaman will be held on next Sunday in Hatton. Fifth Executive President at present Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa completes 50 years in Sri Lankan politics. Thunder showers expected to occur in many parts of the island. For those and other stories in detail. The Director General of Health Services has informed the Secretary to the President that there are no obstacles to conduct the electoral process under the health recommendations and guidelines. The Attorney General Department has informed that relevant particulars in this regard has been submitted to the Supreme Court. Additional Solicitor General Nishara Jayaratne said that the Attorney General has submitted 3 complete reports on the collective steps taken by the government led by the President in containing and preventing the spread of COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Additional Solicitor General Nishara Jayaratne said that according to the State Intelligence Service report, after the 30th of April, excluding the Sri Lankan Navy's COVID-19 cluster, quarantine centres and hospitals, no new COVID-19 cases were reported from the community. She said that the contents of the letter issued by the Director General of Health Services, Dr. Anil Jayasinghe, to the Secretary to the President on May 20th have been submitted to the Supreme Court. She further stated that the Director General of Health Services has further indicated that the COVID-19 pandemic has been successfully controlled in the country while the number of infections and deaths from COVID-19 are at lower levels at present. Accordingly, she said that the Director General of Health Services has cited in his letters that guidelines to hold the elections based on health medical recommendations and maintaining social distancing can be facilitated and there are no obstacles for the future proceedings of the electoral process. She also said that the epidemiology unit at the Ministry of Health has submitted reports on the containment of COVID-19 in the country from 29th of January to 26th of May to the Supreme Court when presenting submissions on behalf of the Attorney General. She added that these reports have indicated that the spread of COVID-19 pandemic in the country has been contained and prevented. Therefore, there are no obstacles to conduct the electoral process.
And meanwhile, President's Counsel Manohar De Silva informed the Supreme Court that no legal provisions exist to recall the Gazette notification issued by the President to dissolve the Parliament. He further informed that no legal provisions have been facilitated to conduct the general election within a period of 3 months from the date of the dissolution of the Parliament and to convene the new Parliament. President's Counsel Manohar De Silva, representing intervenient petitioner Professor Pandula Endagama, made these submissions when the fundamental rights petitions filed challenging the dates of the general election on June 20th and decisions made by the President to dissolve the Parliament were taken up for consideration for the 7th day of today. The petition have been considered before a 5-member judge bench led by Chief Justice Jayanta Jayasuriya. President's Counsel Manohar De Silva reminded the court that the Supreme Court had informed the Election Commission on its authority to take an independent decision to allocate a date to hold the election. Accordingly, they pointed out that it is surprising for the Election Commission to request more time to declare a date to hold the election and to issue a preferential numbers under such circumstances. He alleged that an issue has erupted pertaining to the attempts taken by both Election Commission and petitioners to postpone the general election considering these facts. President's Counsel Udita Ulagaheva, representing an intervenient petitioner, pointed out several disparities in the facts cited in petitions filed by each petitioner. Further consideration of petitions was postponed till 10 a.m. tomorrow.
The final rites of former Minister and leader of Ceylon Workers' Congress Arumugam Thundaman will be held on next Sunday at the Norwood Stadium in Hatton. The mortal remains of the late minister is lying at his residence in Vattaramulla. Minister Thundaman, who was admitted to the Thalangama Base Hospital over a sudden illness, passed away last night. Upon hearing the news on the sudden demise of the former minister, many ministers led by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa arrived at the Thalangama Base Hospital last night. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa said that he had a bigger aspiration over the well-being of the estate working communities. The Prime Minister said that the late minister was a good-hearted and honest politician who extremely cared for his constituents. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that the late minister was a leader who had won the heart and trust of all communities in the country. He said that one of his aspirations was to build a university for the children of the estate workers. Former parliamentarian Mahindananda Aludgamage said that the late minister discussed on the 1,000 rupee salary for the estate workers even 1 hour prior to his demise. Former parliamentarian Susil Premajayantha said that the late minister was a compassionate and honest leader who was still considered to be the leader of the estate worker communities at the previous provincial council elections. The mortal remains of the late minister Thundaman was placed at the private funeral parlour in Boralla till 10 this morning. Subsequently, the remains were taken to the late minister's residence in Battaramulla. The remains of the late minister expected to be taken to the parliamentary premises tomorrow. The mortal remains of the late minister will then be taken to the headquarters of the Ceylon Workers' Congress on 29th and will be kept at the premises until May 31st.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has expressed his condolences over the demise of former minister late Arbugam Thondaman. Issuing a message of condolences, the president has said that he was deeply saddened by the untimely demise of Minister Arbugam Thondaman, who served his community with dedication for the economic and social well-being of the less privileged plantation workers. The president said that the late minister, who had correctly identified the issues faced by the Tamil community, dedicates his entire political career to find solutions for these concerns. The message of condolences issued by the president indicates that the late minister vehemently rejected the ideology for a separate state for the Tamil community amid various intimidations directed by the powerful terrorist organizations. The president has also said that the late minister continuously carried forward the dedication shown by his grandfather to uplift the livelihood of the plantation community. The message of condolences issued by the president indicates that revolt incepted by late former minister Soumya Murthy and carried forward by late former minister Arbugam Thondaman has brought upon a better livelihood for the present-day plantation communities.
Late former minister Arbugam Thondaman called on Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa yesterday. This was the final official duty carried out by the late minister. Prime Minister's office has said that late former Minister Arumugam Thondaman met with the Prime Minister to discuss on the issues pertaining to the estate workers' communities last evening. A proposal was handed over to the Prime Minister by late former Minister Arumugam Thondaman to resolve the housing issue of the plantation worker communities. In addition, the late former Minister had presented proposals on the issues pertaining to the health and the development of schools and infrastructure facilities of the plantation worker communities. The Prime Minister presented the proposal and suggestions handed over by the late former Minister Arumugam Thondaman to the Cabinet of Ministers today.
Fifth Executive President in Sri Lanka and current Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa completes 50 years in politics today. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was first elected to Parliament on May 17, 1970 as the youngest member of the Parliament at the age of 24. Engaging in a revolutionary political stance, a sitting beginning, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was at the forefront to establish a government led by Sri Lanka Freedom Party, putting an end to a 17-year-old United National Party reign. Also, he voiced against tragedies occurred in the country during the period of 1987-1988. Throughout his political life, he successfully held various ministerial positions, including Labour and Fisheries ministerial posts, and also as the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister of the country. He was elected as the President of the country in 2005 and won the hearts and honour of the nation as a leader who ended 30 years of long brutal terrorism from the face to the country. With the advancement of democracy, the period between 2010 to 2015 period has been identified as an era which achieved rapid development in the country. This period offered social democratic approaches to economic and social issues. The continuance of social welfare policies, a massive commitment to infrastructure development, strengthening and rural sector of the economy for the benefit of the future generations. He came through many decades of several service to the people, demonstrating an unfailing loyalty towards the nation and bolding facing the rough and tumble of politics. His unwavering service towards the nation paved the path for President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to be victorious as presidential election. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa is the present leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna.
Total number of recoveries in the country has increased up to 732 at present. 51 active COVID-19 patients were identified in the country today. Ministry of Health said that all detected patients were members of Sri Lanka Navy. A total of 137 confirmed COVID-19 patients were detected yesterday, and 127 out of them were returnees from Kuwait and directed to the quarantine centres. 10 patients were members of Sri Lanka Navy. A total of 217 identified COVID-19 cases were returnees from Kuwait. Director General of Health Services Consultant Dr. Anil Jasinghe at a press briefing this evening said that PCR tests have been completed recovering total group of returnees from Kuwait. Dr. Anil Jasinghe further said that the government has taken steps to enhance the treating capacity of COVID-19 patients by allocating Old Theldeni Hospital and Old Hambantota Hospital for this purpose. He also said that the COVID-19 cluster within the Navy is gradually being decreased. Total number of over 3,000 people related to COVID cluster, the Navy cluster rather, have been completed. The quarantine process, he added. Dr. Anil Jasinghe further said that the Navy cluster can be termed as controlled. He said all the necessary details related to the COVID-19 control activities can be obtained and downloaded from several websites related to the Health Ministry.
නතු වෙලා තියෙනවා එය පැහැදිලිවම අඩු වෙමින් පවතිනවා. අද දිනේ සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශ වෙබ් අඩවියේත් ඒ වගේම ප්‍රවෘත්ති දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව වෙබ් අඩවිය ඇතුළු වෙබ් අඩවි කිහිපයක සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය විසින් සකස් කරනු ලැබූ මාර්ගෝපදේශ ඇතුල් කරලා තියෙනවා. මේ අනුව ඕනෑම ආයතනයකට ඕනෑම ගලේකුට එය භාගත හැකි භාවිතා කළ හැකි.
විදේශ රටවලින්
Minister Pavitra Vaniarachi at the same press conference reiterated the steps taken by the government to avoid the transmission of COVID-19 from the Sri Lankan returnees to the general public. She further said that it is the duty of the government to bring back Sri Lankans who are stranded in various countries due to the various reasons. The government used its enhanced sector of international relations for this purpose.
තැන්වලදී ඒ රජයන් අපට දැනුම් දෙනවා දීපාර්ශ්වික සම්බන්ධතා තබා ගැනීමේ අවශ්‍යතාවයක් පෙන්වා දෙමි. වීසා නැතුව එහෙමත් නැත්නම් අනවසරේ ඒ රටවල් වල රැඳී සිටින අපේ ජනතාව අපේ රටට ගෙන්න ගන්න. වැනි කාරණාවලදී වගකිය යුතු රජයක් විදියට අපට සිදු වෙනවා. අපේ රටේ ඒ පුරවැසියන් ඔවුන් අසරණභාවයට අනාථභාවයටපත් වෙලා වීසා නැතුව ඉන්න වෙලාවේ ඔවුන්ව ලංකාවට ගේන්න ඒ ගෙනාවත් ප්‍රජාව අතරට මේ රෝගය පැතිරීම කිසිදු වෙලාවක අපි ඉඩ තියන්නේ නැහැ.
A report issued by the epidemiology unit at 10 a.m. today has indicated that 20 COVID-19 patients have been discharged. A report issued by the epidemiology unit at 10 a.m. today has indicated that 20 COVID-19 patients have been discharged from hospitals after completely recovering from the disease in the last 24 hours. Accordingly, 336 patients out of the total number of 1,370 of COVID-19 infected patients have been identified as returnees from foreign countries. The total number of 725 confirmed cases in the country identified as members of Sri Lanka Navy and their close contacts.
New High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka Gopal Beglu says that the government of India led by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Singh Modi appreciate the Sri Lankan President and the Prime Minister for the steps taken to prevent the COVID-19 outbreak in the country. The High Commissioner Gopal Beglu conveyed the good wishes of the Indian leadership when called on Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at Temple Trees this morning. Further discussions were held to deepen India-Sri Lanka bilateral economic relations and also to expand their close cooperation. During the meeting, the Indian High Commissioner reiterated the commitment of India to stand shoulder to shoulder with Sri Lanka in addressing the challenges posed by COVID-19 and in post-COVID economic recovery. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa recalled the long-standing relationship with the people and government of India. He reiterated his belief and the bilateral relationships would become stronger with the addition of new areas of cooperation. He agreed with High Commissioner Gopal Beglu that their shared Buddhist heritage and links between India and Sri Lanka provide a platform for robust people-to-people engagement and for bringing the two people closer together. He said that he would instruct the relevant officials to consult with the High Commission to further develop such cooperation.
The multi-storied housing complex consists of 152 apartments built at Slave Island Railway Street with the aim to provide proper housing for the families living in settlement in Colombo City was vested with the public today. The project was initiated by Urban Development Authority. The multi-storied housing complex has been named as Lakeside Residencies. The first phase of the housing complex, implemented through a Pakistan investment company, was constructed in a land acquired from the Railways Department in 2013. 40 new official residences were built instead of 28 existing official quarters and handed over to the Railways Department in 2015. A new mosque, a new Islamic religious educational school and community center replacing the existing mosque and Islamic religious educational school were also built at the site. The site also consists of supermarkets and relevant facilities. The new housing complex was vested with the public by Secretary to the Urban Development, Water Supply and Housing Facilities Ministry, Priyat Bandhu Vikrama. The project was completed at a cost of 1,100 million rupees. The project was initiated under the instructions of then Secretary to the State Defence and Urban Development Ministry, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, under the program to build 50,000 housing units for the families living in settlements with less facilities in Colombo City.
And meanwhile, the Met Department says that prevailing showery condition is expected to enhance due to the low-level atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka. The Met Department said that showers or thundershowers will occur at times in western, sub-Ragamu, central, northwestern and southern provinces. Heavy rains above 150 millimeters can be expected at some places in western, sub-Ragamu and southern provinces. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several parts in eastern and Uva provinces and in Polonnaru and Bulathur districts after 2 p.m. Winds will be southwesterly and wind speed will be 30 to 40 kilometers per hour in sea areas around the island. Wind speed can be increased up to 50 to 55 kilometers per hour at times in the deep and shallow sea areas of coast extending from Bulathur to Kankasanture via Mena and in Galle to Batiklo via Hambantota. Sea areas of the coast extending from Bena to Pothoville via Colombo, Galle and Hambantota can be rough at times and swell waves may be experienced 2 to 2.5 meters height at times. Many low-railing areas in Bulat Sinhala have been inundated due to the heavy showers. The water level of the Kallan River increased slightly this afternoon due to the heavy rains in upper catchment areas. Roads and low-lying areas in Srithavaka division were inundated due to the overline flowing of Vakoya. Consequently, many paddy fields and cultivation have been destroyed. 43 houses in Valiveria, Gampa have been partially damaged due to the strong wind condition prevailed this morning. Many low-lying areas in Gampa district have also been inundated while vehicular movement have been hindered as many roads were inundated as well. Meanwhile, vehicular movement on Karadana Road in Getahatha, Ahaliaguda was hindered after an earth mound has collapsed on the road. Many lowland areas including Nakandula, Megaswala, Erapola, Divrumpitiya have also been inundated due to the prevailing weather condition in the country. Also, a flood situation has occurred in many areas including Hiniduma.
Southwestern monsoon. This year we have been working very hard from month of April and we did all the planning because this time we'll have to have the safety centers in conjunction with Corona and dengue pandemics. So with that, I think it was a serious scenario that we had to work very hard. So we have been working with health authorities from the beginning, and initially from the Ministry of Health, we got a very good, serious guideline and direction. On that guideline and direction, Disaster Management Center together with Med Department, NBRO, and Disaster Relief Center, with the advice of the Ministry of Defense and the Secretary of Defense, worked out all our plans. And we walked and we went into all the districts and certain areas, important areas, and we spoke to them. We had discussions with them. We have made our plans with district disaster committees. And with that, we developed kind of a system where we will work out the release of people, evacuation of people, then positioning of centers, earmarking of centers, earmarking of quarantine centers, as well as forward positioning of SAR teams, the military teams, the police, and other relevant authorities. And the most important point is this time we came on two scenarios. That is, number one is friends and relatives scenario, where we'll have less numbers coming into safety centers on the friends and relatives scenario. Then second one was, if and when we go into centers, we'll have proper security system, proper monitoring systems with health authorities, and every district to have one quarantine center as well. And further, if and when we find even a single inmate infested with the pandemic or the disease, we might have to convert those centers into quarantine centers. However, the plans are made together with all the stakeholders, starting with the Med Department, the Irrigation Department, the NBRO, National Disaster Relief Center, and the guidance of Ministry of Defense. All the plans are made, security forces are ready, guidelines are given, and we are in the process of procuring the medical and health requirements and other essential services. Payments of compensations and the assessment of whatever unforeseen situations are also being worked out. Or with all that, Disaster Management Center, Disaster Relief Center, Med Department, Irrigation Department, NBRO, together with all security forces and police, we are ready to face the incoming monsoon together with corona pandemic and the dengue pandemic.
And with that, we conclude tonight news. Do it tomorrow at the very same time. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.